This is VSiN, the sports betting network. This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
What's up, everybody? So excited to be with you here on a gold medal Monday. Let's go. Welcome into Money Moves. Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. Live as always from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. I don't know about you, my friend, but I'm feeling a little patriotic today. Feeling good.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are. I mean, it was good. You're glad. It's always good when not only do they win gold, but they win it over the Hicks up north beyond the border in Canada. So very, very good. That's my usual insult. I mean, they say that about Reno, but, you know, it's a very mild insult, but an insult nonetheless.
As much as we love hockey, we're very anti-Canada on this platform. Although,
sure,
I did have a future on the Canadians to win the gold medal game. Never been happier to lose a bet.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I don't know if you could celebrate.
I think I can, and I shall, and we will hit on more and more of that game in a moment, but quickly, we do have a 2-hour show on deck, lots to get into. It was an awesome weekend across the board in sports, so let's set the table like we always do. Time to run it down.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is The Rundown.
I'm pretty pumped to get into a lot of the hoops conversation today. Our full court press, ESPN's big Monday doubleheader, Louisville at UNC for a big top 25 tilt in the ACC, plus a banger in the Big 12 between Houston and Kansas we'll preview. And I know it's a short 3-game card in the NBA, JVT, but could be a potential NBA Finals preview with one of them.
Yes, and dare we say, an MVP eliminator here as you have Victor Wembanyama taking on Cade Cunningham. And MVP at center stage. We saw a fraudulent MVP candidate throw a fit yesterday on the floor while also contributing statistically but being a negative for his team. We all know who that is. But Cade Cunningham, as these MVP candidates, including Thunder player Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I don't want to say player, guard, are missing time, our boy Cade could actually be the beneficiary here and end up, when everything is said and done, with the MVP. So it's a big night and it's a big conversation after what happened over the weekend.
Thunder, by the way, snapping what was a Cavs 7-game win streak. One of a few really interesting results coming out of this weekend. We'll talk more NBA as well, not just the two of us, but Mitch Lawrence in about 30 minutes, host of Mad Dog Sirius XM NBA Radio, also going to join the program. And the Underwear Olympics getting underway this week, JVT. On-field workouts won't get going until Thursday, but the NFL world taking over Indianapolis this week for the NFL Combine. We can discuss some of the Combine markets that will become available in the coming days, but also a new market popping up for the NFL Draft.
Yes, we finally have one new market. It is who's going to be the second overall pick. So very much excited for it. I mean, look, this becomes a much more interesting conversation only because you have pretty much 3 edge rushers that are going to be up for that spot at the second overall pick. At least that's what seems like is the conversation. Every mock draft has one of the 3 there. So we'll see if that actually comes to fruition. But we're about that time now. We're going to get the Combine. We're going to start to see some guys. Ty Simpson's going to throw at the Combine as well. But we'll finally start to get some markets added very slowly. And again, we will ask, very interested to see how they price that total quarterbacks in the first round. Seems like it'll be 1.5. Just where is the juice? We know it's going to be on the under. How much, though?
That'll be a great conversation. We'll also continue our MLB previews like we have been doing, one team a day each and every day, getting through all 30. And coming off of what was a tremendous Olympics overall in Milan. Hey Siri, play Freebird. Yes, that was the goal song of choice for Team USA on both the men's and women's side as they both claim Olympic gold for the first time in history in the same year. The American men's win yesterday morning, their first since the 1980 Miracle on Ice team. Exactly, by the way, 46 years to the day. And shout out our boy Jack Hughes with the cracked teeth, bloody mouth with the overtime game winner for the golden goal. So fun all around, and like his post-game interviews, everything he was doing, like I love Jack Hughes so much. What an unbelievable moment.
It's almost like it didn't matter that it started at 5 o'clock in the morning, huh?
It's fair.
Yes, it was a great game. It was exciting. It wasn't going to matter when it started. Absolutely tremendous. You know, you get wrapped up in it as you do when you watch events like that, and to finally see, I mean, to see the best of the best finally on the ice and have them go at it for the ultimate prize was absolutely fantastic. And we got exactly what I think a lot of people wanted, which was a low-scoring overtime game in which the team we wanted came out on top. So go Americans. It was an awesome game. We had a lot of good goaltending as well in the contest. So I was pumped up. I thought it was a fantastic contest.
Yeah, Connor Hellebuck, 41 saves on 42 shots on goal, just the one goal allowed. And for a guy who, Yes has 3 Vezina trophies and won the Hart Trophy for the league MVP a year ago, has been someone who has heavily been criticized for not being able to step up in the big moments in the postseason throughout his NHL career. For him to have that type of a performance in that type of game, quite frankly, all throughout the Olympics, Connor Hellebuyck was a brick wall. Such an impressive performance. And we have a little video showing how much his team loves him and how awesome of a moment he had in the locker room post-game.
Helly, 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 helly. All right, I'll say something. I want to thank all of you. You guys helped each individual here get to where we are. Boys, I'm so proud of the chemistry. Every little detail, every little thing that you guys did to get here, it mattered. It mattered, and it mattered at the biggest stage. So, USA! 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 I love you all. Thank you.
His saves, by the way, one shy of the most ever by an American in an Olympic game with NHL players. He also wins Best Olympic Goaltender for the tournament. 6 goals against in 5 games, 1.18 goals against average, 131 saves on 137 shots, 95.62 save percentage. Also, by the way, just to add to the lore, had an assist on the game-winning goal in overtime as well. Just why not?
I mean, the stick save is obviously the one that is going to live forever when you're talking about moments, especially in a one-goal game, to be able to turn that away. I mean, Canada couldn't find anything. The old joke, right, is water covers 70% of the earth and Connor Hellebuyck covers the other 30%. I mean, it was a great performance, like you mentioned, turning every single thing away. I was amazed by watching what he was able to do there and to carry a team, but to help a team that was having trouble themselves offensively throughout that entire game. You're only in it because your guy can get it done. And same for Canada. I mean, he went to overtime 1-1, but that was an incredible performance from Hellebuyck.
I mean, and you think, too, sure, if you're a Canadian fan, the woulda, shoulda, coulda, if Nathan MacKinnon is able to score on that open net, if you're able to have Sidney Crosby, if you're able to do something with the 5-on-3, but you don't. Right? When all is said and done, Team USA rose to the occasion and made this thing happen. Such an impressive performance from Connor Hellebuyck. And we've mentioned Jack Hughes and the moment that he has, obviously, with the golden goal in overtime. Just like Mike Eruzione for the U.S. back in 1980, or even for those Canadian fans, 2010 in Vancouver with what Sidney Crosby was able to do. That's going to be a moment in American history, in hockey Olympic history, that's going to be remembered and go down forever, that moment. And it's kind of cool listening to interviews from both Quinn and then Jack after the game about dreaming up and thinking about that moment. Listen to this.
We both shut it down at probably 11:30. I could hear him, these barracks, man. I can hear him rolling around in bed. And we're rolling for like 2 hours. I'm like, I think he asked me, what are you thinking about? And I'm like, this is 2 hours in. I'm like, man, I just keep replaying my OT winner. What about you? He's like, same, man. I keep thinking about my OT winner tomorrow. And that's what you dream about, you know? When you're 6 years old, 7, I'm 24 now. I'm still dreaming that. And, this is the best moment in USA hockey in a long time. And to be a part of this group, like I said, to do it with my brother. We've had such a fun couple weeks, me and Quinn, in the Olympic Village. And we're just happy this is the way we finished it.
And what makes that even better is they both did get overtime game winners in the Olympics. Obviously, he has the golden goal, but Quinn to punch the ticket from the quarterfinals to the semis with what he was able to do. He wins Best Olympic Defender, by the way. Connor McDavid gets the Olympics MVP, which I don't think surprised a lot of people considering he sets an Olympic record for points, a margin of 2 additional points. However, something that I don't know if you saw this, they do the voting for that so early on that it's decided in the first intermission of the gold medal game who's going to be MVP for the Olympics. And I don't think that makes sense.
No, of course not. That's an insane thing.
Right?
I didn't believe it at first. And I guess that is actually how they do it. I don't know why that would be the process for anything. I mean, even in some of these...
Especially for, you think about people that are betting Connor Hellebuyck live, because those markets were still available.
But this happens in some of the championship games as well. It's still relatively early. I don't know why you can't accumulate the votes once the game is over.
Especially considering how long the ceremony is post-game.
I don't know why they would do that. I mean, that made no sense at all. So, I mean, if you knew that, then you were probably in a pretty good position there. But how about McDavid again? Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Winning a bunch of these awards, but still falling short and when it matters most. close. And that's not to put it on him, but just the general thought of him consistently not winning the biggest game, but coming away with almost every single award possible.
That was exactly what I was thinking when post-game they're showing all of those amazing shots of the U.S. team after winning, like Jack Hughes runs into the boards and he's just getting basically strangled and suffocated, but jumping up and down, and you see the whole bench jump up, and then after all of that, they cut to the Canadian bench immediately to Connor McDavid. He's the first guy you see, and that's all you think is, okay, great, another massive moment that you're the best player in the world, and your team can't get it done and you lose. And I have seen a lot of Canadian fans too coming out saying, well, it's kind of a gimmick that this is decided in 3-on-3 anyway. But here's my thing. Yeah, okay, if true, if that's really how you feel, isn't that where the high-end skill and the better players that have like the more high caliber talent, isn't that supposed to be when you rise up? That's when you guys win? Also, were we not aware that 3-on-3 was the way that this format was going? Is that not something that we do in the NHL during the regular season?
Gotta complain
it's not
about
something you like that. To me, I was stunned by, okay, well, it's 3-on-3 anyways. It's not even real hockey. Shut up.
Yeah. I mean, we have to complain about something. That's what we do as a society. Nothing's ever good enough. If it doesn't go your way, then there's something to whine about.
It was just so fun. It was so cool. And so, I was with my husband on Saturday all day long. He had this big... We'll talk about this more a little bit later on in the show, but my husband did a 50-mile marathon thing over the weekend, and it went deep into the night. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do this. Well, I didn't sleep. And he was so sore, couldn't function. He woke me up every 30 minutes. So 5 a.m. came for the gold medal game. I had never been more ready.
There we go.
All right, we're just pulling an all-nighter.
You have to keep
for hockey. Okay, with that, we got to step aside here. But as one door closes, goodbye Olympics, another one opens. We're less than a week away from the calendar turning to the month of madness. We've got some updates for you from a potential seeding perspective, some odds there. And as we mentioned, a couple of really, really great games on deck today. Don't go anywhere.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools, but what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This segment of Money Moves sponsored by Upside. Turn your gas purchases into real cash back with free Upside app. You can download Upside now. Promo code SPORTS for 25 cents back per gallon as well on your first fill up as we welcome you back to the program. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. What a weekend for college hoops. So Duke gets the better of Michigan. Arizona with a huge road win at Houston. BYU upsets Iowa State. Cincinnati tops Kansas. UCLA gets Illinois in overtime. The list goes on and on. It was a fun one.
It was. So it's funny. I thought at the start of the day, we get the reveal of the NCAA tournament top 16 seeds. You know, we're kind of doing a similar thing when it comes to college football. They do the ranking show, so we get the top 16 teams. A surprising number one seed, Iowa State, was the fourth one seed according to the committee. And then they go on to lose to BYU. So this whole thing with that final fourth seed, that fourth number one seed, I should say, is going to be absolutely fascinating as we move forward. Houston, which we'll get to here in a moment, now back in the mix for the number one seed with the Iowa State loss potentially. Does UConn get into the mix for the fourth number one seed? I think is also going to be a question. So I'd love to see some markets. I was looking around about odds for a one seed and who would ultimately get that. But that is going to be it. I think we feel pretty confident. Michigan, Duke, Arizona, not locked in, but I think it would take a lot to dismantle to shove them off the hill that they're on, or the mountain that they're on, when it comes to being the number one seed. The question just becomes, of these teams, I guess we'll still include Iowa State because the committee thinks fondly of them, UConn, Houston. I can't really think of a fourth that would maybe make their way up into that conversation, but we'll see exactly what that is. Usually we get some odds on the number one seed, but I cannot find any right now.
And where we sit right now, too, so Joe Lunardi updates his obviously very, very frequently. He currently has UConn in that 4th spot, despite them losing, 2 of the last 5 games now. They get the big win over at Villanova this past weekend by double digits. But you mentioned Houston, and I think that's super interesting because they obviously have a really big game coming up tonight against Kansas. Cougars laying 1.5-2, depending on where you look right now. Total 138.5, and obviously this is another very important game for them in terms of building that resume to have that opportunity.
Yes, it is. And what a game that we are going to get here.
I'm pumped.
I mean, Kansas, I don't know what you do with the Jayhawks. Houston, as you mentioned, coming off the 2 straight losses, but Kansas has lost 2 out of the last 3, and that includes the Cincinnati matchup, which they were tasted at home over the weekend, 84-68. You have all this noise around Darren Peterson and what's happening. The rumblings are getting stronger that he's potentially not going to be the first overall pick. So this is all going kind of sideways for Kansas at the worst time possible right now. You look at where the market is and where it was here for these, and we're pretty much right in line. Opened up in some spots. I think we saw 1.5. It's still 1. Some 2s are starting to pop. It's hard to gauge what Kansas is at this point, but I like this Houston team a lot. I know that they've lost 2 straight, but I don't think you're freaking too much out about losing to Iowa State and then Arizona. You can bounce back nicely here. You've got the backcourt play. You're not going to turn the ball over at a high rate. Pretty good at shooting the ball, as we know. I feel like it's a good situation for Houston after 2 straight losses to kind of bounce back, even though they're on the road.
I'm in agreement with you. I don't know if I like the 1.5, though, and as this continues to be looked at in their favorite, maybe it's the minus 130, 135 money line that you end up rolling with instead. I did think this was interesting. I saw this in an article when I was doing some prep earlier this morning from NBC, that Houston has not lost 3 games in a row since 2007.
Wow.
Meanwhile, Kansas, off the home loss to Cincinnati, has not lost back-to-back games at home since 88-89. So one of those two things is going to get broken today.
Yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of narrative drama. There's everything here for both of these teams. So I am very excited to see what this is going to be. But situationally, I think you can make the case for both of these. But I'll just go with the team that I believe is better here, and that's Houston to get this done. But like you said, cheap money line. If you wanted to go money line price, see if that gets pushed down. I bet them just there, Houston, as opposed to laying 1.5. But I think the Cougars are the side here. Ken
Palm does have Houston by 1 in a 69-68 win, so that puts the total 137. As I mentioned, we're sitting 138.5 right now, which was a 3-point move toward the over for 2 teams that are relatively high in defensive efficiency. According to Ken Palm, Kansas 14th, Houston 7th, also 12th in turnover percentage. So on the surface, at least, you would think this would be more of a defensive battle. And you mentioned all the Darren Peterson stuff. Even though he had a productive scoring day the other day, and I mean productive, so 17 points, 1 of 7 from 3.
Yeah.
So when he was on the court, we were still struggling a little bit.
Yes, they were. I mean, and you look at the game for Cincinnati as well. It does help when you shoot as well as they did. Inside the arc, they were shooting 57%. They shot 12 of 31 from beyond the arc. I mean, it was a monster shooting day for the Bearcats. So that is going to be that sort of variance that you get. And by the way, a team that shoots 32% from 3, shot 39% against you. I think you can kind of chalk it up to a little bit of the wrong side of that spectrum. So I don't think we're freaking out about Kansas too much. I think an opponent just had a really hot shooting night, and then you have to bounce back from that.
Another conference that you and I talk a lot about, near and dear to our heart, the Mountain West. And it was a tough weekend. For SDSU, not only SDSU, but SDSU and Iowa State both. Tough losses to take. But for the Aztecs, you cannot, after already having lost to Grand Canyon, which getting swept by them now in the regular season this year, then in the follow-up to that, losing as a 2.5, 3-point favorite at Colorado State in the fashion that you did by nearly double digits. It's a brutal look. And they and New Mexico, both teams that you're trying to figure out what this is going to look like for them from a bubble standpoint. I can't remember if I was with you or with Dustin last week on Follow the Money when we had Jerry Palm on, from formerly of CBS, well-known bracketologist. It was you? Okay. I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember. But remember, he had both of them in that, last 4 in position. And now both of them on the cusp, but San Diego State out in all of the bracketology stuff I've been looking at.
San Diego State to make the NCAA tournament, yes, plus 230, no, minus 320. I think that we're done here. You have to win the NCAA, or excuse me, you have to win the Mountain West tournament. We're looking at a world in which the Mountain West and its final year of this, version of it is maybe getting one team in. Utah State is solidly in at this point, but the rest of these Mountain West teams, Grand Canyon lost to Wyoming over the weekend as well.
Yes. So that loss for SDSU just looks worse and worse now, too, because of that.
And as we talked with Jerry Palm, Talked to Jerry Palm about it.
Sorry, I couldn't remember.
The thing hanging around the neck of San Diego State already that was holding them down was a loss to Troy earlier in the non-conference season. So you can't have that happen. So this was one of a couple of the markets that I thought for the NCAA tournament, make or miss. You could make the argument, again, that no minus 320 maybe has a little bit of value. I know it's a hefty price. That's something I'm going to lay, but there's not a scenario in which San Diego State makes it in as an at-large, I think. And then the question just becomes, I guess, like in a tumultuous Mountain West in which nobody has any idea what's going on outside of Utah State being as consistent as they have been, who in the world is the second-best team in this tournament once they get to the Thomas & Mack Center coming up in 12 days?
Yeah, well, I don't know. And following that loss for San Diego State, New Mexico now, and I guess a program like TCU too, are in better positions based on some of these other teams floundering a bit. You put it in the rundown: Ohio State, Michigan State, USC at home to Oregon is a 6.5-point favorite. They inexplicably go down, but the Ohio State one specifically, they are in a very precarious situation as it pertains to the tournament as well, which could be good for a Mountain West team like New Mexico, but for themselves, how have they, like the quad one losses have been significant.
You and I and Justin and our crew here have just as many quad one wins as Ohio State does at this point. They're 0-9 against quad one opponents. So we talked to go back to our conversation with Palm last week, Jerry Palm, not Mike Palm. He was one of the bracketologists that had, and I have to look at his update here, had Auburn, and we'll talk about Auburn in a second, but had Auburn on the bubble specifically because at that point when we were talking to him, they were 4-12 in quad one games. How in the world is Ohio State going to be an at-large considering that they are 0-9 against quad one opponents? Yes, they are undefeated against the quad 3 and quad 4, and they only have one loss to a quad 2 opponent, but at this point, you have to have a quad one win to at least make some sort of a case, and that has not been it for Ohio State. Yes, plus 110 to make the playoffs, or excuse me, to make the NCAA tournament. No, minus 140. That seems cheap given what we know about their resume at this point, but still, the net rating still have them like 38th. Which I don't really understand given how bad they've been against quad one opponents.
So you mentioned Auburn. They finally stopped the bleeding over the weekend, had lost 5 straight, beat Kentucky 75-74. And yet what happened to their odds?
Yeah, so when we talked about this last week, they were minus 420, somewhere in that range to make the NCAA tournament. Now they're down to minus 300 as a yes. And like you mentioned, they slid a little bit and they get a win over Kentucky over the weekend. But that Auburn, I think, is going to be a really interesting team because there are some like Palm who had them strictly on the bubble. Again, they have kind of floundered in these quad one spots, so we'll see if this victory really is going to help them out here. But that price, yes, minus 300, considering the way they played and what their resume looks like, I still think even now, plus 220 seems somewhat tempting for Auburn, considering what we know about them and their status on the bubble.
Also worth noting, so the other big game of the day today in the ACC, Louisville at North Carolina, and we can talk about this game more a little bit later on in the program, but just to get some numbers out there for you, Louisville getting bet out here a little bit from 1.5 to 3.5 some spots. The total up from 161 to 162.5. Ken Palm does have this one, Louisville by 1 in an 81-80 final, so sitting on that 161 total-wise. North Carolina 6-3 ATS their last 9. Louisville failed to cover the last 2, failed to cover 5 of their last 8 as well, which included an outright double-digit loss at SMU as a 4-point favorite last week. Also, if you're still playing for gas, you're messing up. You don't have to with the free Upside app right now. You can get cash back every time you fill up. All you need to do, download Upside from the App Store or Google Play, start earning today, and use our promo code SPORTS to get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on that first fill up. Drivers saving $200 to $300 a year just by buying the gas they already needed. It's simple. It's legit. You can cash out anytime to your bank account or e-gift cards like Amazon. Download the free Upside app now. Use promo code SPORTS for a limited time. 25 cent per gallon bonus. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Keeping it on the hardwood, but going to the NBA next. Excited to have Mitch Lawrence, Mad Dog Radio and Sirius XM NBA Radio join us after this.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Interesting weekend in the NBA as we welcome you back here to Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. The Celtics shamrocked the Lakers. See what I did there? The Thunder and the Cavs 7-game win streak. Nuggets can't overcome the Warriors despite another gem from Nikola Jokic. Excited to get into all of that and looking ahead to this home stretch of the NBA season as Mitch Lawrence joins us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Mad Dog Radio, SiriusXM NBA, the starting lineup post. You can also follow him on X at Mitch_Lawrence. Welcome in, and I guess of the notable results from the weekend, what stood out to you most when all was said and done, Mitch?
Ooh, good question. Thanks to be with you. Well, I love the old rivalry between the Lakers and the Celtics. And when the Lakers are honoring Pat Riley with a statue, and then they go out and they score 89 points as they're honoring the architect of Showtime, I mean, that's really, really bad job by them. Another big win for Boston, not just in the series, but Boston overall. An amazing season. I thought they'd have a pretty good season without Jason Tatum. I didn't think they'd be this good. And what they're getting out of Jaylen Brown, who's an MVP candidate, and Peyton Pritchard, who coming off the bench yesterday, at times he was the best player on the floor. And so the game was a dud for Laker fans and another kind of a red alert day in terms of Luka Doncic. It's always great when those two historic franchises and the best rivalry going meet up. But amazing that Pat Riley has to sit through a game. Here he calls for the Lakers to beat the brains out of Boston, and they give you 89 points for the whole day. I think I read somewhere it was like the worst home point output in the LeBron era over 240 games.
So what do we do with these Lakers? I want to talk about the Celtics momentarily, but Mitch, they're 5-11 against teams with a top 10 net rating. They've been outscored by 12.7 points every 100 possessions in those games. What is the ceiling for this Lakers team who are currently outside of the play-in right now?
Well, the ceiling ain't the roof, as Michael Jordan once said. I mean, this is not going to be a good postseason run, I don't think. I think anything beyond the first round would be awesome for that team, but I don't see that happening. I think they're going to struggle. Listen, as much as people want to talk about they've got this elite three offensive, trio in LeBron and Doncic and Austin Reeves. I mean, the problem is, there are nights when they can't score like we saw last night, and they're also defensively very, very bad. So, they've got their problems, and I think nobody's under any illusions. I don't even think, hardcore Laker fans know that this is going to be a year that is just going to fall flat on its face at the end, and this is probably going to be for LeBron in Los Angeles. They'll probably move on as a team. I think correctly must really now undertake the retooling really with Luka by himself, maybe with Austin Reeves, but with LeBron out of the picture. So it's not going to be a good postseason at all, I don't think.
To the point of Luka, something interesting is happening with this MVP race as some of these candidates are on the fringe of potentially being eliminated. We know that Victor Wembanyama is on the fringe, potentially not qualifying. Jokic is right there with about one game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander continues to miss time. There are some that think that Luka can get into this, but I've been pretty adamant on this show, Mitch, that I think his attitude, the way that he plays, I think that's all going to hold him back from winning this award, even if he's one of the lone eligibles. What do you make of the way that he has been acting yet again and how that affects him as an MVP candidate?
Well, you raised some good points. I think the way he acts, we saw it yesterday again, falling to the floor after he thought he was fouled, not getting up, complaining to the officials at the other end. Boston scores a fast break. Even Reggie Miller was getting on him. I think it was for that. It's a bad look. I'm sure listen, if you're J.J. Redick, it's one thing. You've got to coach a LeBron James in the twilight of his career, twilight with the Lakers. That's difficult enough to juggle all that entails. When is he going to play? When is he not? What kind of effort is he going to give you from night to night? But then you've also got to deal with this Luka thing, which is even more problematic because he hasn't changed his tune. He's still complaining on every call almost. And it's a bad look. And he takes a million bad shots as well. So for J.J. Redick, this is a very difficult day. I know he gets paid handsomely to coach this team and to deal with these guys. But I just don't know if anybody's ever going to break through with Luka because he just doesn't want to seem to clean up his act when it comes to officiating. Now, in terms of the MVP discussion, I don't think he's in it really because the problem is I know they're fifth right now, but I don't consider them an elite team. I think the guys who were, at least the way I used to vote when I was voting for MVP a few years ago, was I'm looking at the top performers. I'm looking at this year, especially a guy like Cade Cunningham. Detroit's in first place and all the great things they've done. I know they've got a big-time schedule coming up in the next 5-6 games. But a guy like Luka on a fifth-place team, now you got to do more than that. for me. So I think between the standing and the standings, where the Lakers are just kind of nobody considers them a real championship contender, and the fact that he does have these issues still, I think that's going to hold him back.
Mitch Lawrence, Mad Dog Sports Radio, Sirius XM NBA Radio, joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line. As far as the MVP conversation this year does go, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is an odds-on favorite in that market where things sit right now. You mentioned Cade Cunningham as a candidate. Nikola Jokic obviously atop the board as well. But with both Shai and Jokic dealing with some injury concerns, like Nikola Jokic can only miss one more game here down the stretch. Do you think that somebody like a Cade or maybe even like a Jaylen Brown or someone like that could make enough of a push here in this final home stretch of the NBA season to win the award?
Well, let's talk about Cade first. They got the Spurs tonight. Haven't played them yet, so that's always exciting to see two elite teams, both with 40-plus wins at this stage, going at it for the first time. San Antonio's won 8 in a row. Detroit's won, 5 in a row. Two elite teams. Let's see how Cade, what kind of numbers he puts up tonight, and let's see what the end result is. And then, of course, he still has Oklahoma City Wednesday, Oklahoma City a second time, San Antonio a second time coming up, and he's got Cleveland 2 times with James Harden. I mean, if Cade gets the Pistons through this stretch and they put up really strong win-loss numbers, if they win, 5 of 7, if they can beat these teams consistently, and he is the best player on the floor, as he's been showing in a lot of games this year, especially against the Knicks and teams like that, I think Cade Cunningham is a great shot. The other guy, you mentioned Jaylen Brown. I mean, people say that he's, why isn't he an MVP? He's an MVP. There's no doubt about it. He's an MVP candidate in my book. I mean, listen, they lost Jason Tatum, who's an MVP-type performer, who people consider, when he's healthy and he's playing well, a top 3-4 player in the league. They've been this long without him, and look what they've done, Boston. It's been an amazing story. I thought Boston would be pretty good this year. I didn't think they'd have a huge fall off, but I didn't expect them at this point to be 37-19 with a chance, to get to 40 wins before they get to 20 losses, which is really always the hallmark of a elite team, a contending team for a championship. I think both those guys will have legitimate shots.
Who do you like in that Spurs-Pistons matchup tonight?
I'm taking the home team. I like Detroit's fitness. I like the fact that they've gotten Duren back from the suspension. I love the way the Cade Cunningham is playing. I love the fact they always play with a chip on their shoulder. They are physical, but I love the fact, too, that they're mentally a tough team, and they're going to be a tough out. And you know what? I don't know if the Spurs haven't played them this year, and there's nobody quite like the Pistons when it comes to banging people around, as Victor Wembanyama is going to find out. So I definitely like the Pistons, and who knows, they might even cover. This could be a 4 or 5 point game when all is said and done.
All right, let's go back to yesterday, but spin this forward. An interesting result. Oklahoma City beats Cleveland 121-113 without quite a few guys on the floor. Should we be freaking out about the Cavs, and what do you make of this new iteration of Cleveland as we move forward into what's going to be a very easy stretch for them to close the year?
Yeah, I wouldn't be freaking out, but I definitely think that game is worth remembering. Now, they had won 7 in a row. They had won, 5 in a row with Harden since he got there with the trade. I think the trade was a very good trade for them, potentially. I think, and here's the reason why. I know he has playoff failures. That's right now a big part of his legacy, as does Donovan Mitchell. They've had their moments in the playoffs where you just scratch your head and said, what happened to these guys who start in the regular season? Okay, I know that. But I think if somebody's going to take them to the next level and help a guy like an Evan Mobley out, and Evan Mobley has a very high ceiling, but Evan Mobley has been disappointing in a lot of ways. He doesn't have an impact offensively. I think James Harden can be the guy to get the best out of him. So I'm looking very much forward to that. Cleveland, that's kind of a loss where you look at it and you go, really, you couldn't beat this team. I know it's on the road. It's a tough place to play, but they didn't have SGA. They don't have Jalen Williams. They don't have Alex Caruso. I mean, you got to go in there and you can't fall behind, 28-5 right off the bat. I know they came back. They made it a game. They had their chances. They just got outplayed by a team that plays better team basketball than they do right now. I still think it's a 14 race in the East, Detroit, Boston, New York, and I put Cleveland in there. Before they got James Harden, guys, with Darius Garland, I was not buying the Cavaliers at all. I think James Harden has the ability, like I said, watch for how he can help transform Mobley because he's done great things with big men in the past, especially a guy like Ibaka. with the Clippers and other bigs he's played with. So I think James Harden can be a difference maker if he's not scoring in Cleveland.
Mitch, you're awesome. Thank you so much for the time today. We appreciate it.
Enjoyed it, guys. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you, Mitch.
Mitch Lawrence, everybody. And to that point on the Cleveland Cavaliers, that loss did nothing to impact their odds in the conference, by the way. If anything, it's actually gone down. We were talking about this last week. It was in the 3-1 plus 320 range, plus 290 now atop the odds board at DraftKings. We got to step aside here. When we come back, continuing our MLB previews, who we got today? The Minnesota Twins. Stick around. Play ball, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Stormy, Buonantony, JVT with you in downtown Las Vegas Circa Resort and Casino. Continuing to preview each and every team across Major League Baseball as we get ready for the MLB season. Spring training already underway. I don't know. I feel like this kind of creeped up on me a little bit. But I'm happy about it.
Baseball usually does. I mean, pitchers and catchers report in the blink of an eye, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, because what happens is you get to the NBA, or actually NFL playoffs, the Super Bowl ends, and then usually right around that time is when pitchers and catchers start to report. So you get through a really busy portion of the schedule, and then you look up, and you're like, oh, it's time to get ready for baseball season. And
I'm just excited that we're going to have a baseball season, because this time next year we might not be so lucky.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on how things go.
Yeah, we'll see. Be an interesting summer next summer if we don't have any baseball to carry us throughout.
Yes.
A lot of NFL futures talk, I assume.
Yes. From a betting standpoint, this MLB season, there are obviously a lot of things that were predictable when you go and look at the odds market, right? You see the Los Angeles Dodgers favored again to win, and all of the things that they've put into their roster, the where Shohei Ohtani is for NL MVP, Aaron Judge, clear chalk on the other side. Cy Young races also kind of lack some depth. But as you go through team by team, and I've really liked this exercise, and I think this is great for us to have these little capsules of each team in the preseason done for when we look at all of the big picture conversation. But there's so much opportunity kind of across the league, which is why we've been going kind of worst to first instead of just starting at the top with all of the big Dodgers and like top teams. Although the Detroit Tigers, I know a team that's kind of middle of the pack that a lot of people are very high on as being a potential contender. So today we're going to look at the Minnesota Twins, who from a numbers standpoint are predicted to be among the lesser than worst teams in the league. And yet, I'm seeing like a lot of mixed bag opinions out there, including in our MLB betting guide, which came out last week from both Adam Burke and Jensen Lewis, where we have a guy like Adam who thinks that the Twins are a team that, given all of the talent that they shipped off and where they look roster-wise right now, should be an under 73.5 on the win total. And you've got Jensen, who's a former MLB player, looking at what they can do, and if a certain player plays a certain number of games, which we'll get to in a moment, that they could be a playoff team potentially. So which side of the coin do you fall on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm out on the Twins. And here's the thing, too. We did get some pretty significant news the other day, which was that Pablo Lopez had the torn UCL, and that Tommy John surgery is going to be likely here. So you get a very big piece that is now all of a sudden unavailable to you in a rotation that, if you had a little bit more depth to it, maybe looks a little bit better. But now, after Joe Ryan, there seems to be a pretty stark drop-off. We'll see what Zebby Matthews becomes. Last year, Matthews was okay, but you definitely wanted a lot more. 5.56 ERA, but an expected ERA of 4.67, so you expect that maybe there's going to be something a little bit more there. Some of the underlying metrics for him are pretty good, well above average in terms of chase rate, whiff rate. He was a good strikeout pitcher, had good command, but the barrel rate was pretty below average, got knocked around a couple of times. So if Zebby Matthews takes a step forward, maybe you talk yourself into this becoming something, but I think with the loss of Lopez, you're all of a sudden looking at a team, Stormy, that potentially, and I think this is going to be more likely than not, become sellers by the trade deadline. And so if that's the case, a lineup that, if you look at the lineup and you go, well, you still got Byron Buxton, and you still got Luke Keeschel, who actually had a pretty good season last year. All of these things, I think you start to look at and go, is Byron Buxton even going to be on the team? by the time we get to the deadline.
So that's a great one, because when we were talking in the commercial break,
Yeah.
I brought up Jensen Lewis's kind of bold take that he put in the guide, and it was Byron Buxton plays 140-plus games. Walker Jenkins and Emmanuel Rodriguez both debut before the All-Star break, helping lead the Twins to a playoff berth. And you said, I mean, I could see Buxton playing 140-plus games, but will it be for a different team?
Yeah, like was 80 of them going to be for a different team? It seems like this is going to be a team that definitely has Seller on their marquee by the time we get around to the deadline. The Lopez injury does somewhat change things for you. And just look at the AL Central as a whole. When you look at the Minnesota Twins, we've talked about the upside of the Chicago White Sox and the fact that they've kind of added some veteran pieces around a core of young players that maybe could have some pretty solid upside here. You look at the Kansas City Royals. We'll talk about them a little bit later, but Adam had a great take on Pod to the Futures, which, by the way, still last week episode, very fresh, very evergreen if you want to go check it out. A lot of baseball there about how good the Kansas City Royals could be, especially at home. You know what the Tigers are. The Guardians are always, we'll call them a very adequate franchise almost every single year, where these teams could be beating up on Minnesota as well. I just think this gets pretty dark for the Minnesota Twins when you're looking at the division in of itself. And then, of course, you expand out to having to take on the other teams in Major League Baseball. So I don't think too fondly of Minnesota as we head into this year, to be quite honest.
So here's how the odds shake out in the AL Central. The Tigers are your favorite, plus 120, Royals 225, Guardians plus 330, the Twins 9-1, White Sox 40-1. If what you say is true, and the Twins could be contending for last in the division, do you look at like a plus 340 for fifth in the division, or is where they're favored at plus 135 to be fourth in the division the right spot with the White Sox still well behind them? Could you take a shot at 35-1 on the Twins to have the worst record in baseball this year if you think that they, go under the 73.5, maybe contending with some of those lesser than teams? I mean, it's hard to maybe beat the Rockies, who are a big favorite in that market, but could they be in that talk?
I mean, they could, especially if it depends on the degree to which they sell, but if they really do steer into the, hey, we're going to sell some stuff here, then I think you could look at a team that's pretty bare bones and pretty poor by the time we get to the deadline. I don't know if they fall as far as what, a Colorado type would be, which is very, very low, but I think they're going to be very poor. We've talked about these exact finishes. To look at Minnesota to finish last in the division, I think is definitely something worth looking at. As somebody who does like Chicago to potentially go over the win total, that would lead you then to, of course, say, okay, well, somebody has to take some of these losses somewhere, and I think that's going to be Minnesota. So this is a team that does have some upside on offense, but again, I just don't think parts of that lineup and maybe parts of this rotation are going to be there by the time we get to post-trade deadline in the summer.
Any other player-specific angles you want to go down, or I can just read off
something crazy?
I love crazy.
Let's look at something crazy.
Especially on a day we have Call Me Crazy But, so stick around for that a little bit later.
I've got some great ones. When you look at MVP, if Byron Buxton gets traded, if you think he's going to play 140 games, and if you think he's going to get traded, do you go Byron Buxton? The problem is, when does he get traded? What team is it for? And then, of course, does he actually get the votes that he would need to win American League MVP and beat an Aaron Judge or a Bobby Witt or anybody else at the top? But
40-1, that price I see right now?
Yeah, I'd want more.
Okay, not enough.
No.
What do you make of
I like how I brought it up, and I was like,
yeah. 40-1. No, can't do it. What do you make of the top of the board for AL MVP, though? So Aaron Judge, your favorite, Bobby Witt Jr., they're about $2 different at plus 550. Cal Raleigh, can he keep up or even be a part of the guy he was a year ago, plus 850 his price?
Such an insane season. You find it hard that maybe that's going to be happening. I mean, Cal Raleigh's going to be great no matter what. So I don't think that there's going to be any stark drop-off. But the ridiculousness
with which he had a year ago.
Yeah, it was pretty strong in terms of that season. I mean, to again invoke our buddy Adam Burke, the way that he talked a lot about the changes to the field out there in Kaufman and the fact that the Royals are doing what they're doing to make their home park a little bit stronger for some power hitters. And it's not like Bobby Witt Jr. is a power hitter, but if it becomes a little bit more of a hitter-friendly park, and Bobby Witt Jr. is just every bit of what he is as a player, and the Royals do take off and maybe win the division or are a good, strong wild card team, whatever it is, you do wonder if Bobby Witt Jr., again, I know it's only plus 550, but he's got to be up there, I would think. And given his production in both facets, both at the plate and in the field, I think that he would be a very strong candidate to get this done in a world in which Aaron Judge exists in that ballpark, in which he's going to just push for potentially 60 homers every year and wears the New York Yankees jersey. It's going to be very hard, but Bobby Witt Jr. does have, I think, some intrigue there, even at plus 550 or so.
I know I'm going on a tangent here, but what else would you expect from me on a day that we're supposed to talk about the Minnesota Twins? I just pulled up the Cy Young market for for AL Cy Young. Tarek Skubal, your favorite, at plus 350. Garrett Crochet, plus 425. Then we get to the double digits with DeGrom, Hunter Brown, Cole Reagan's all in the 13-1 range. Is this another year where a short shot comes home, or is there a name that's kind of sneaky, up and coming, you would be excited about?
I mean, I tried. Mike Palm and I bonded over this last year. I tried to get my guy Hunter Brown there, but ultimately he fell short and didn't get there, which was somewhat disappointing. But he's got the upside for it. I mean, you look at some of his numbers, especially in stretches last year, he was dominant. And so if he continues down the path that he is, I think 13-1 might be fair. But Tarek Skubal, who we were talking about this during the break, is going to save himself. He's only going to pitch, it sounds like, in one game for the World Baseball Classic and then get ready. If he is healthy, it is going to be hard. It was almost Ohtani-esque in terms of his dominance at that position and how you upend him if you can.
He's one of the guys that could get insured and is only going to play one game.
Yeah.
That's lame. That's been like a crazy thing, though,
a hockey player would never.
To see how, hey, it's true. Okay, I got to admit, and because especially the like back and forth that you and I have with you being more of an NBA guy and me being an NHL person.
Showing?
I just, in a sport like the NBA where you're flopping over nothing, it was really fun to just see, manly men pushing through and giving it their all. Reminder, by the way, so as I mentioned, we're broadcasting from here in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino, where check out this deal that is coming up here around the World Cup time. You can get ready to win a larger-than-life World Soccer Championship experience. One lucky winner is going to score a 2-night stay here at Circa. You get a VIP cabana for the games at Stadium Swim with $500 in credit, $250 in food and beverage as well. Plus, arrive in style in a limo. You can celebrate with cocktails at Legacy Club. Enter now and kick off the World Soccer Championship at Circa Resort and Casino. For more detailed giveaway details, am I dyslexic? Visit circalasvegas.com. circalasvegas.com. It is. Okay, why are you the way that you are? On that note, we got to step aside here real quickly. We are kicking off hour 2 of the program next. Get back into a little NBA conversation, especially around the MVP. Things are heating up a little bit in the final stretch.